Hey y'all, here we are. I'm all set up. My name is Z. I am the Director of Youth Outreach for the Future Perfect Project, and we are here for another Monday night of FPP Live with an amazing guest, Rigel Gemini, and we are so excited to have them on with us tonight. I think they are ready! Okay, here we go. Here they
Hi.
Hello!
Hello there.
How are you, you beautiful human being?
Thank you. Doing good. How are you?
I'm so excited to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Am I saying your name correctly, Rigel Gemini?
Yeah, that's right. Rigel
And
Gemini.
fantastic. What a beautiful sun-kissed name you have.
Thank you.
It's like descended from the gods. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my parents are hippies, so like they named me after a star and then I'm a Gemini, so yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love how that all comes together. So, just a heads up, I'm going to explain a little bit about FPP, and then I'll introduce myself, and you'll introduce yourself. And then we'll get
Cool.
right into some questions about your journey as a queer person and as a queer artist, and just share some love for those viewers who are watching today, and
Love it.
just put some more joy into the universe and some honesty, and some rawness, however deep you want to go. We will go.
Love it.
So again, my name is Z. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the Director of Youth Outreach for the Future Perfect Project. And we believe that the self-expression of LGBTQ plus youth and allies is a declaration of a better future for us all. We do this by providing free arts programming to queer youth and allies, as well as amplifying their voices through multiple forms of media projects. The organization started about 4 years ago when our founders, Ryan Amador and Celeste Lacine, were going across the country, and while they were devising a piece of theater, and they were going to different LGBTQ centers and high schools, and they found that there was this desperate need for queer youth to express themselves, and hence we were born. I love the filters you do.
I'm like, who is she today? Who is she today?
Who is, and find yourself, discover in this moment. Um, as we were speaking about FPP being born, you are finding a new life. I love it. And so that's a little bit about us. And so if you can just start by telling us your name, your pronouns in a sentence to describe how you're feeling, where you are, and where you identify on the queer spectrum. I'll start, and I'll introduce myself again just to give you an idea. So my name is Z, and they are feeling grateful in Roselle Park, New Jersey, and I identify as a non-binary, pansexual, queer mother of goddesses. How about yourself?
I love that. My name's Rigel Gemini. I use he, they pronouns. It has been an evolution for me because I identified first as gay and then queer, and then in the last like 6 months, I've identified as non-binary. And obviously, I've been that way my whole life, but I just feel like there's more space for us to be non-binary, and I just like am realizing that's who I am. So yeah, so that those are my pronouns, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm a content creator, music artist, and I've been on this journey of like creating music, and yeah, really happy to be here.
Yes, I've been listening to some of your stuff over the last few days. There's that song. Is it in Spanish and Portuguese?
Yeah, that's right, Fiesta Virtual.
It's so cool. I was like bopping to it.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, of course. And I'm so excited um, that you just led us to a beautiful beginning to our conversation about being non-binary. You know, for me,
Yeah.
it was a very interesting journey coming to that term, and I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about where that language comes from for you.
Yeah, like I like growing up, I've always been very like non-binary. Like as a kid, I wore girls' clothes a lot. Like I remember one memory where like I wanted to wear a girl's bathing suit to the pool, and like I have hippie parents, like I said, so they let me do that, and like that was things I was comfortable experimenting with, like clothing, gender, and so I think, you know, I've never strayed away from that. Like it's not like I didn't have that always there, but I think just like seeing more visible people who are non-binary, like Sam Smith and people who are on the cast of Pose, and just like people in more like the public eye identifying that way made me realize, okay, wait a minute, that's definitely who I am too. And you know, I think just finding your people, and finding the types of people that make you feel good. Like I just have so many non-binary and trans people that I know here in Atlanta, and I'm like, okay, those are my people, and I'm like them, and I don't know, it's definitely been a self journey. And then I think with the music, like I kind of created a bit of a character for my music, and I was experimenting more with makeup, and I was experimenting more with different gender like expression with fashion. And so I was like, wait a minute, this is really also a part of who I am that actually the music helped me express. So yeah, so I got to explore that side of me more, and that was kind of what led me to finally like decide, okay, I use the term non-binary for myself.
Wonderful. That's like a beautiful way to look at the world and look at your journey. And I'm wondering if you could talk to me a little bit more about your music and how your queerness comes through your music, because there's so much playfulness in your work, yeah, and so much like just fabulousness. And I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about how your queerness speaks to your artistry.
Thank you. Yeah, my music's very queer. It's definitely like inspired by like RuPaul and Todrick Hall, and even like Kesha, and like I don't know, Britney. And so I feel like music should, for me at least, should be really fun, and for me also it comes through in like a campiness. So like, you know, my song I Can't is like just very gay, like me talking a lot. And then my song Too Much is about how like my whole life I've been too much for people. Like, you know, I'm too feminine, or I'm too flamboyant, too outgoing, too loud, like just being too much. And so I do feel like my music was a way for me to unload a lot of things that I've felt my whole life, and that I guess I hope other people can identify with, because I know there's a lot of us who had this type of experience. But yeah, I think, and then I collaborated with a lot of queer people. Like my song Bourgeois was produced by Ocean Kelly, who's like an amazing queer rapper. And then my song Coffee in My Cup was produced by Kin Bear, who's a gay guy I know in New York. And then I had featured artists like Gia Gunn, who's a trans Latina, and Aaron Valenzuela, who's gay. So like I just found my like queer community of creatives, and like reached out to them and collaborated with them. So it really was like a queer labor of love. My music videos too, like drag queens, and my videographer is a queer person, and I feel like I built this community of queer people of color, and that totally came through in my art. So yeah.
Yes, queer community of creative people of color. That's
Yes.
taking that into a rhyming class. That is
yes.
And so I love that. I love that you've created this community. And I'm wondering, like, your high school self, could you have ever imagined that you would be here?
I mean, I feel like I was a very similar person in high school. Like, I was really into fashion, and I was a musical theater kid, and I grew up like experimenting a lot with different instruments. And sorry, I'm getting this light a little better. There we go. Yeah, I like, I used to play with a synthesizer, and I was the lead in the high school musical my senior year, and so like music was always a part of my life. And I feel like they say like at a certain age you have like your Saturn returns or something, where like you revisit things from your past, and like you're on this path like re-exploring things that you loved before. And so I do feel like this period in my life, like I'm in my early 30s, and I am like going back and revisiting things that I'd always wanted to do, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing them because like this is my life, and this is things that bring me joy, and like why wouldn't I just pursue some of those things? So yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's like, that's a journey. That, and
Yeah.
I can very much identify with that. Um, Recognizing the aspirations I had as a young person, as I was in high school, because a lot of the queer youth that we work with are, you know, teenagers in high school right now and trying to figure out what it is to be an artist at the same time. And I'm wondering if you could speak to me a little bit more about like what kind of art were you creating when you were in high school? I know you mentioned you were into fashion and things like that. Like,
Yeah.
what role did you play your senior year of high school?
I was in the musical The Princess and the Pea, and I was the prince. So I had to like sing the entire thing. And I did like a lot of plays every year, productions every year. Like I did at least one musical, usually two musicals and a one act play like every year of high school. So I was like always doing theater. And I remember I had to learn all of the songs. And I remember there was like one moment when I like forgot the words and like froze on stage with like 100 or 200 people in the audience. But then I remembered all the words again and I was like, phew, I almost like froze and ruined the whole musical. But yeah, I like, I don't know, I was one of those kids that was like dancing and twirling down the hallways and had like my little gaggle of ladies that we would just like be prancing around the high school, and that was very much who I was.
That's fabulous. Do you feel
Yeah.
like, conversely, do you feel like there were challenges with being queer in high school, and were there any obstacles that you felt like you brushed up against in the universe? You were like, I need to do something about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was not easy. Yeah, like being non-binary, like it's not something you could hide. Like I couldn't just blend in. I couldn't just be a boy's boy or like toughen up or, be like I couldn't be that. I was who I was. I am who I am, and like I was in rural Vermont, and a lot of people were like growing up on farms and like not, not city people who were exposed to a lot of different backgrounds. So like I stood out quite a bit and definitely was bullied. I feel like I insulated myself. I had um, a lot of like protective things that I built up around me, like having like a group of girlfriends who were beautiful, so that like the straight guys couldn't mess with me because I was friends with all the popular girls. Like I had those types of tactics that were like survival mechanisms to not be a target and to not get, because there were people who didn't do that who I saw like treated much worse than me. So it was like choices you make in order to survive. And then I think it just made me that much more determined. Like coming out of college, like I moved straight to San Francisco, and then I lived in New York City and LA and now Atlanta, and I just was like, get me out of the rural places. I mean, there's beautiful things about rural America and I love to visit, and there's people who thrive as adults. I just feel like as queer people, like we want to be around more people like us, and that's the cities is where that's at. So yeah, I definitely had to find my path and navigate all of that. And I just look back and like I'm really proud of where I got to, and I think that's like a big message for queer youth that are in similar situations. Like you will be very proud of where you get to, and you can carve your own path. You just have to make decisions and protect yourself, and eventually you'll get there. And yeah, I'm very proud of where I got to, and definitely like I went in a totally different path from anyone else who I grew up around, and that was my path, and I just made sure to stay true to it.
That's, I mean, it's so interesting because I recognize, like, I can identify with a lot of that. I grew up in a small town, very suburban, but I was very different than the people around me, and
Yeah.
I definitely was like a sunflower in a field of dandelions. No, I'm just kidding. That's horrible. That's so cruel. But no, wonderful people, wonderful people. But I say that to say I was different than the people around me, and it's really important to recognize that like our differences are what make us powerful and
Yeah.
beautiful and strong, and to recognize that you found a way out or found a way that was that's brought you to happiness is like really inspiring.
Thank you.
Especially for to me and to the queer youth that we serve.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering a little bit more about you know, if there was a moment in life, or if there are things in life where you're like, oh, there's something wrong with this and I need to change it, or I need to have some effect on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've had that moment, or you have that thing where like this needs to change, and what you've done or what you're doing about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, like in any sort of context.
Particularly around queerness and the
Yeah.
obstacles maybe that you face as a queer person, but
Yeah.
do you really?
Okay. Well, I think, yeah, like I think we do have to be really intentional as queer people, making sure that we're happy and that we protect our happiness. I think growing up, there was one school that I was in that was like the public school when I was really little, and my mom noticed that I would just come home and be really like exhausted and kind of depressed every day. So she like switched me to a different school. Very lucky for me that she was able to do that, but she switched me to like an art kind of school, and like I feel like that's an early decision where my parents intentionally like put me somewhere else so that I could thrive. And then like through my life, I mean, I've had relationships where I felt that way, where it was like someone wasn't as comfortable with themselves as I was with myself. And that was like a limiting factor of like, oh, like I can't, I can't, I can't be the person that makes things easier for you per se. Like I love who I am. I am on this journey. And so there's been like relationships like that hold you back, or someone is holding themselves back, which holds you back. Like that definitely can happen. And now I have a husband who's like creative and, and totally knows who I am and comfortable with everything about me. But yeah, there's definitely instances like that. And then I think, yeah, I've just been intentional, like my living situations and the places the cities that I've lived in, like always trying to make sure that I feel good about it, and that I'm happy. I haven't been someone that's been like super goal oriented where it's like, okay, I'm planning out every part of my life, but I always have just followed my gut of like, this feels good, this feels right, I'm going to keep going in this direction. And as I followed that path of like, this is what feels good, it has led to more and more good things. And that's just kind of how I've tried to focus and filter out, the bad things, and making sure that I just have that supportive, positive environment. So, yeah.
You just speaking about queer joy is like everything, is like the summation of a beautiful conversation. So I'm so glad you bring that up. Because it makes me wonder more about the content that you create.
Yeah.
And what that's been like for you in terms of reaching out to people, affecting change, affecting your community that you've assembled. What's that journey been like for you, in terms of where does it bring you happiness?
Yeah.
How does that affect your joy?
Yeah, definitely. I think like people go into content creation for a lot of different reasons. Like I've always tried to stay really authentic to who I am. Like a lot of times like content creators, they'll say like, oh, you need to be a travel blogger or a fashion blogger or a food blogger or whatever is your niche. But I've tried to always just show and express who I am, and I know that other people can relate to that because there's people like me and there's people who are going through similar experiences to me. So I have tried to always keep my content focused on things that I enjoy. And as far as like the content creation journey, it's definitely like evolved. Like when I started out, I was just living in LA, and I was going to like different fashion shows and just meeting cool people. Like LA is just full of people who are pursuing different avenues, and a lot of people who are in content creation. So I just was kind of meeting people. And then, over time, like I really leaned into the LGBTQ aspect of content and making sure that I'm always expressing like a positive message of queer identity, and trying to be like showing that like joy and thriving, and finding your path to happiness and all that. Like I definitely have tried to bring that into my content. And that's a big reason I went into music, is I mean, I did so much of Instagram and photography and things like that. And I was like, okay, I feel like there's another aspect to my creativity and something that's dying to come out. So yeah, I feel like, I mean, I work in like more of a corporate environment, like professional environment, and content creation has been a way for me to really like express um and to like let out some other side of me that's not fulfilled in other parts of my life. I think that's like an important thing for people to think about is like you can't get everything you need out of one part of your life, so you have to build other outlets and other spaces for you to get that well-roundedness, right? So yeah.
Yes, yes. It's been beautiful because you've received so much recognition for the work that you've done with whether that's Business Insider or just the amazing accolades that you've had at such a young age. Recognizing that like it is really a journey. It's a really it takes time,
Yeah.
and I think it's important for the queer youth that are watching to recognize like your journey will be what it is, just as Rigel's has been for them.
Yeah.
It's really, and as mine has been for me. So I'm wondering if you could talk to me a little bit about. I'm so wonderful today. I'm wondering so many things because of you. I'm wondering more about, what, you know, if you could imagine a perfect future for queer people with all of
Yeah.
this joy in mind, with all of this, like, the obstacles and adversity that you've faced, what would it look like?
Yeah. Yeah, that is a beautiful thing that I think about a lot. And I think a perfect world would be one where like queer people can just live freely and not have to question ourselves or compromise ourselves for other people. And that's something I try to live and try to create. But I think, as queer people at every turn we're faced with, you know, challenges or judgment or, having to question ourselves and our place in the world. And that can be hard to navigate because it really messes with you. It's like, am I okay? Am I on the right path? And so I guess like a perfect world would be one where you can just be yourself from a young age and not have a whole side path you have to go down because you felt like you had to conform and then to come back to where you wanted to be. Like if we could just continue being who we wanted to be from a young age, I think that would be a really beautiful thing. And then, I mean, just like all of the laws and all of the things that are happening around the country right now, all of that gets in our way in terms of healthcare and marriage and adoption and all of those family things that we should be able to enjoy, and just the inequality in the justice system and the criminal system and all of that, like those things are all things that we have to address. But I mean, I think also like another one would be if artists could make a good living and thrive as artists. I think like I have a corporate job. That's the decision I've made, is to pursue that path. But it's really hard to make money as an artist. Like even getting into music, like I'm getting good streaming and I'm getting different people who are hey B-Hawk. Oh my gosh, love them. Um, yeah, I just have learned how hard it is to make it as a musician. Like the streams and the royalties and all of that, it really doesn't add up very much. And so that whole economic system that like you're putting your life and all this time into music and people like it and people are listening and you're getting recognition and you still are barely getting any money for it, like it's definitely makes it harder to be a queer creative. So yeah, I mean, the ability to thrive, the ability to be who we want to be, the ability to never have to stray from what feels right and never have to question ourselves, those would all be like the perfect future for me.
I love that. I love that, especially because we have a program called Future Perfect Records where we work with queer youth and have them write their own songs. We, in collaboration with our facilitators, and they're produced and it's going to be a full album, but for them to think about what it's like to have the opportunity to have that work in collaboration, it's because it's so hard to do by yourself.
That's amazing. Yeah,
really
it is.
important.
It's really hard. Yeah.
But you talk about family, and I love that. I'm wondering, what's the thing you bring to make what is it that you bring to the world to make it a better place?
I think that I bring like a free spiritedness and joy. I think people who know me would know that about me. Like, um, I'm pretty spontaneous. I'm pretty outgoing. I try not to be like held back by the outside world, by my own like doubts or whatever. So like I'm very like free, and I think like my expression of that invites other people to have that sort of freedom. And so I hope that's what I bring to the world. And I try to like help other people open up and to experience life in a more free way. So that's what I try to give to other people. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And now, what's your superpower?
My superpower. Probably like my energy, like you were talking about like youth trying to make it in music and stuff, and like my energy level and like my work ethic is probably my superpower that has gotten me through a lot. Like I can work a lot of hours, and like on the weekend I like am working through the weekend, usually working on content and shooting things. And I think sometimes that's what it takes. Like ever like I don't know. I I think everyone recognizes how much work it takes. It's hard to have enough energy to do it all, especially when we have so much that we're so many commitments. Like, we have to pay bills, we have to, walk our dog, we have to go to the grocery store. Like there's so much stuff we just have to do to live, but to have energy beyond that to do even more, to like write songs or shoot photos or create a business or pitch press, like it takes so many hours. And my friends and everyone who knows me are always like, how do you have the energy for it? How do you keep doing it? Honestly, I don't know. I guess I get it from my parents, but that is a superpower.
It really is. It really is. And now we're coming to the end of our time together. I've gained so much joy, so much energy myself from getting to know you. And I'm wondering if there's a piece of advice that you would give, or not advice, but if there's some words that you would share with the high school version of yourself. If there's something that you wish the high school version of you would know, what would it be?
Yeah, I think that a lot of us who have been through that kind of trauma of like high school and like being a queer person who's targeted or who stands out, like you start to question if you are a good person who's on the right path. So I would tell myself like, you're a good person, you're a great person, you're a loving person, you're on the right path. Never stop, never question yourself. And yeah, and you deserve love and you deserve to be loved.
Drop the mic, queen.
I almost teared up a little on that one. I felt like RuPaul's Drag Race for a second there.
That's right. Here is the version of you at teenage
Right.
year. Oh my God, I love it. Thank you for going there. Thank you for really
Yeah.
getting that beautiful raw emotion like we described in the beginning. You went all over the map.
I went there.
You really did. And I'm so glad that you did. I'm so glad that we were able to have a conversation about what it's like growing up being queer, what, the struggles that we face, the great triumphs of being an artist, the challenges that we face as being an artist, and the great joy that comes with it. You've really inspired me, as you've inspired the people watching, and I'm so glad that we could have this conversation.
Thank you. Me too, Z. Thank you to you all.
Of course. Thank you so much. And to the next conversation we have, hopefully sooner than later, I'm wishing you all the best. And for those of you who are watching, we are the Future Perfect Project. We provide free online programming to LGBTQ plus youth and allies. If you enjoyed what you watched today, please sign up for our programming in our bio. We would love to serve you and to create your work with you. So thank you so much, Rigel. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You too. Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.